first, thank you both for joining. And then second, I really want to get into, you guys have such a unique model, Vicky. Like in the scope of things, I've never heard of a dry cleaner that also has dry cleaning pods where you can drop off your linens and clothes to get cleaned. But I know that there's so much that we were talking about before we hit record about the things that you've done that have been really unique. So I would love first just to get a lay of the land of what you're up to, and then we can kind of dive into specific campaigns.
Sure. So I didn't do dry cleaning in my previous life. I moved into dry cleaning in 2016 when I gave up my job in the city and wanted to be closer to home and have more time with my family. So I bought a local dry cleaners, um, started doing some, you know, basic marketing. I mean, there wasn't even a website. We were the best kept secret in town, and turned the company around and then started looking at the industry and realized that clothes were getting cheaper, but cleaning was getting more expensive. And at some point, the two don't meet in the middle, and that costs really had to come out of the cleaning model. So if you want to scale your business, you need to take people out of it. And my theory was you don't really want to take them out of the cleaning point because that is quality that is degraded. But taking people out of the receiving and returning would not only save costs but enable you, if you could automate that in some way, to open 24/7. And I guess thought about the Costa model, where we have Costa Express, which is the coffee machine that you can just go and get your nice quality coffee at any time of the day or night. But you do have Costa coffee shops. So if you want to go in and have the experience of a cup of coffee and a pastry and a chat with a friend, you can do that. So what I was looking to do really was have the shop for the experience, if people have wedding dresses, curtains, but actually the convenience as well. So that was the thinking behind it.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so you mentioned this, but that is not something that you can just flip on. I mean, I'm assuming that's an expensive endeavor to be like, hey, I'm going to change the way that a dry cleaner works fundamentally in its modeling. And in addition to the locations we have, we're now going to have these pods, which I'm sure are not free. How did you go about making the move to this model?
Well, I found a company in Italy that produced a system that I could put inside a unit. And they used them in hotels, big hotels where staff members could drop their dirty uniforms off. And then inside the pod was a big conveyor. So when people scanned their card, it would deliver back the correct uniform for them. But it was being used on a day-to-day commercial basis, but not on a customer-facing basis, not in relation to taking money and being in a standalone area. So that was really where the development took place. And I mean, the technology was the easy side. It was the customer journey. It was understanding the messaging and making people know that once they dropped their items into this pod, they didn't just disappear forever. And actually teaching people how to use it. And that was really where the time and the effort went in.
I think that that's brilliant. I mean, Claire, how did you incorporate, or did you incorporate, were you part of the team yet, in that phase of trying to get people to engage with kind of a brand new model?
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting one. So that is one of the challenges we faced, and we'll go on to talk about how we raised money to deal with that and test it and learn from it. But yeah, one of the big problems we faced is the adoption to new technology. This is a dry, stale, old-fashioned industry, and we needed to shake it up a little bit. One of the things that we did, which I'm sure we'll talk more about, is we tried to flip the problem on its head. I've I've always been taught. I used to have this marketing director when I used to work in corporate for a really long time, a really talented marketeer called Mike Hoban. And one of the things he always used to say is, it's all about what you want people to know, but it's equally also about what you want them to feel. So when Vicky and I were looking at this problem, we were like, okay, fundamentally, what do we want people to know? We want them to know it's sort of 24/7. So it kind of breaks the model of the tradition of 9 to 5 shops, or actually 9 to 4 shops, really, which is what you get with dry cleaning more often. We wanted them to know that it was a quick process, and we wanted them to know that we were exceptional at cleaning. But actually, what did we want them to feel? And we were like thinking, okay, well, actually, there's the joy of clean, of wearing clean clothes. That's an important message. But actually, we kind of stripped it back to this idea of, okay, fundamentally, people are dropping, people are dealing with dirty items. How do we make this a bit more fun? And that's where we got into a bit more of a Britishism. There's this kind of British phenomenon. There's this thing in Britain where, if you can make people laugh, even smirk, if you will, you can get people to buy off you. And you can see it kind of played out in the London markets, with fruit sellers. They'll kind of be saying cheeky things to you and they'll catch your attention, and suddenly you'll be buying a dozen apples. And so this Britishism runs real true in England. And so we started to try and think about how can we play with some of the things in this industry that is so dull and boring. So that's where we came up with these campaign lines that underpinned a lot of the work we've done, and got us that sort of attention when we were trying to create a lot of change in an industry that's quite hard to break. So just to take you through some of those lines, one of the key headlines that we still use today is "Drop your trousers." Which is
I love
cheeky and
that
it's
one.
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it gets people talking, right? The other one we use is "Talk dirty to me." Um, so, really gets people talking. And then the other one that we've used, which kind of nearly got us in a little bit of hot water, but in the end was "Bend over and pick me up." Now "Talk dirty to me," when we were doing door drops through people's through people's letterboxes. So we've really
Amazing.
played on creating a bit of fun and a power in the headline, right? Like, your headline is 90% of your ad. So we wanted to create something that created conversation. And that's how we kind of kicked this off. Vicky, do you want to touch on like how we funded the pods?
Yeah, because we launched our first pod, and we were ready. Our target market was the busy commuter train stations. So
Sure.
we knew that there was a really wide catchment area of affluent people who wore smart clothes, who were busy, who arrived at train stations at somewhere between 6 and 7:30 in the morning, and arrived back at sort of 8 o'clock at night, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock at night. And the idea that they could just drop and pick up was great. And I used to be that commuter, so I was very aware of the benefits of that. And then 3 months after launching our first pod, we had lockdown. So
Oh.
that was really devastating for us. At the time, they say, one of the things about business is timing. Our timing was impeccable. Um, so, yeah, we, we then had to make a decision. The decision is, do we pack up and go home, or do we go out and raise money and get other people to believe in what we want to do?
Right.
So the decision was to go out and try and raise some funds, and we turned to crowdfunding for that. And I very quickly realized that crowdfunding is a mass marketing exercise. And that's sort of where Claire was absolutely invaluable, from the refreshing of the brand to the consistent messaging to all of the video and everything to make our campaign catch people's eyes, make them believe in us, make it interesting.
Yeah, I'll just talk about that if that's okay, because I think that's quite important. One of the things that I think people should really think about before they go into a crowdfunding cycle is actually behaviorally, if you're going to invest a proportion of your money into a business, the other things you're going to likely do is you're going to probably Google search that business, or you're going to look at their digital suite, or you might even drive past the business. And so we had to
Yeah.
kind of get our ducks in a row before we even started that process of crowdfunding. So we refreshed the brand. We looked at all touch points where we had a presence. And we built out those to make sure we had our best armory and our best foot forward before we went to our crowd, and asked them for money. So that meant a refreshed website, that meant a refreshed brand, that meant new collateral, that meant new social posts that were going out. Really everything that where you could find us aligned to this new brand and this new direction. And really, I would say it was an iteration of the brand. We didn't completely change the brand, but what we did is we injected some life and some energy in these new headlines into it. So it had a bit of personality. The brand was very blue before, which was very, traditional to what you would see in dry cleaning, but actually didn't have so much cut through. So when we looked at the color wheel, opposite color in the color wheel was bright orange. So we injected some bright orange into there to give us some contrast whenever we were talking about the dry cleaning. And we really played on the headlines, but we also played on this idea of the joy of clean. So, when you put on your fresh garment back from your dry cleaner, that feeling that's evocative of putting on your best garment when it's feeling its best, your best suit when you're going to a wedding, instead of really like diving into how you clean stuff or what to do for a stain. We kind of threw that on its head and really focused in on emotion. So anyway, got all our ducks in a row, went into the crowdfunding, and it's a slog, right? It's a slog.
Yeah.
It's a big
Yeah.
marketing exercise. I nearly swore then. Um, that's not very PC.
Oh,
But
you
yeah, so
could. It'd
we
be fine. Oh, you'd be
the
great,
big
Claire.
effing slog.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you really have to be able to apportion a significant amount of time and resource and love into nurturing that crowd,
Yeah.
because essentially you're getting people to part with their hard-earned cash. Um, we're a truly local business, so we're based in Peterborough in the UK, which is a town outside of London, a city outside London. And so we were essentially asking a hyper local business to raise a bunch of cash. And we broke the mold slightly. So we followed to the letter. When you go to a crowdfunding platform, they'll say, this is what we recommend you do from a marketing perspective. So they'll say, your pages should look like this. You might want to put out some social posts to your following, and you might want to send some emails and chase people up if they say they're interested. Cool. Okay. We did that religiously. No problem. But they said, you really don't need to run paid ads. You really don't need to do anything above and beyond this. And we thought, you know what? Actually, we're going to double down on this. This is a big punt for us. And we decided to run paid ads as well. So we ran paid ads across the Meta Suite and LinkedIn, and targeted anyone with our storytelling video who had pushed any sort of likes or interest behind anything around like angel investing or crowdfunding, and looked at search terms that kind of fit in that sphere, so that we were really finding people who might have an interest in parting with somewhere in the region of 100 to 500 pounds to take a punt on us. And that worked for us. We actually saw, a fairly good uptake of people coming to the crowdfunding platform, from those paid ads, which was a bit different from other businesses that were crowdfunding at the time. What else did we do? Yeah, we ran a lot of emails that were going out. We ran our full social suite, so we were constantly reminding people about the fact we were crowdfunding, and we even took it to as simple as on the dry cleaning bags that were going back to customers, we were stapling leaflets to them that said, "Hey guys, please, we're crowdfunding.
That's
Scan
amazing.
this QR code.
Yeah.
See what we're doing." So we tried to kind of hit everyone at every angle. Do you know what we even did? We put window vinyls up in the shops. You
Oh, I
couldn't move
love
for us. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that.
Yeah, you couldn't move for us. So we really heavily targeted our crowd, and it did really well. Vicky, do you want to talk about the financials of it?
Yeah, I mean, we raised our target, and then we got approached by an institutional investor. We managed to pick up a financial director from the crowdfunding as well, who came onto our board, and invested. And then also, yeah, the institutional investor, and that was interesting. They came with the institutional investor came with an offer that we really couldn't refuse, and then they came on our board as well, and that was really interesting because the way they wanted us to report was in terms of marketing was very methodical. And so again, Claire sort of had the experience to actually get the data and report back on the data in a way that was meaningful to the in to the investors, which was really important because they want to know where the money's going.
Oh, of course. Yeah, yeah. It's crazy those investors wanting to know where the money's going. Uh, I I'm curious. Yeah, I know, right? So I'm curious So you did the fundraising. It was successful. I want to hear how much in a bit because I'm made of questions about this. But I'm mostly curious about what have you done after the successful fundraising campaign? What has the response been like from the community? Because it's a really unique crowdfunding campaign. Most crowdfunding is way bigger, much broader than a local township, right? Like a local city, a suburb of a big city. This is really unique. So how has that local community really responded to you after they were not only able to invest, but then able to see the pods go up as well? I mean, it was obvious around town that this had made a difference. So, what kind of has the response been in loyalty and revenue growth and just community orientation around what you are up to?
Yeah, I mean, the sort of the first thing about the community, they've been hugely supportive. We've been nominated for customer service awards, we've been nominated for innovation awards, we've been nominated for best independent retailer. In fact, we're the only company to win that twice in the region. So and a lot of that was because people were excited that we were doing something different, but actually maintaining our core value. Our absolute must is we want to get every item we clean back to the customer in the best possible condition it can be, on time, every time. And that is, the core of everything we do. But we wanted to sort of hashtag convenience onto that as well. It's been a really tough journey because the train stations in the UK have never come back. So, I'm
Got
sure
it.
it's the same in the US. The market shrank.
Yeah.
I mean, people aren't wearing suits like they did before. We had a period of 2 years where people weren't going out so much. So it was really, we were trying to prove a concept in a I'm trying to think of the right word, but a sort of an unrepresentative market. Um, and
Sure.
really, the market now is only just starting to come back. Companies are now saying, no, you have to come back into the office and things. So we sort of, you know, I think pre-COVID we would have seen some really exciting growth, but we had to make the really tough decision to just hunker down for a little time and let the market balance itself out rather than burn through cash.
Yeah.
So, what we've done is, unlike 40% of dry cleaners who have gone, out of business, is we've stayed in business and we've kept these ideas and we've kept innovating and we've kept watching the market and we've watched the technology and watched what has changed and what hasn't. And actually, we have a slightly adjusted plan, same customer journey, but slightly different, that we'll be launching in about 6 or 7 weeks. But we can't
Wow.
say too
Well, congrats on that. I'm
much.
excited to hear how that goes.
Yeah, it takes everything we've learned, and we've learned a huge amount. What, as I said before, the customer journey was the big thing, and Claire did a lot of work around communicating with our customers and understanding their concerns, and really working on the messaging and getting the balance right between communication without being overly pushy to them. People didn't
Yeah.
want to be bombarded, but they did want at the right time to know what was happening. So, we've worked really hard to get that balance right. And yeah, as I said, to sort of stay true to our core value in terms of the cleaning and the quality. And it's great that we've been awarded a customer service award based on the fact that we provide a remote service, so to speak. Because I was told when I took over dry cleaning, nobody would ever pay on drop off. People would only ever pay when they pick up. And nobody, people had to see you face to face. And I think we've absolutely proven that is not the case.
Yeah.
So our
Yeah.
customers go online and buy their dry cleaning in the way you would buy any product you shop for. You put it in a basket, you pay, and then that generates your QR code that enables you to go and drop off.
Yeah, Claire, I'm curious, what has your experience been like as someone that's, driving marketing? Are you seeing people respond online? Are you hearing from other people in person that You know, because again, it's really unique as a local community to invest in a business in a
Yeah,
crowdfunding
right.
way. I'm just has there been chatter? Has there been conversation of like, I feel like I have a piece of the company because it's a really unique opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. Our community, we see them, we were very fortunate actually going into the crowdfund that we had a very tight-knit community anyway. The area in which the business is based, we have a lot of really loyal customers. And we saw a lot of them taking the opportunity to invest in the company. And actually, Vicky did some really nice touch points around writing handwritten letters to those customers to say thank you. And those pieces that kind of really bonded us all together were really important. And so when it came to things like running for local awards, we found that community come behind us to recommend us for those awards. And they are absolutely part of our success. So yeah, all credit to our community. They're really strong. We need them, We're a small local, hyper local business.
When you all think about kind of where you're going, I really appreciate the time that we've had here to talk through this. When you all think about where you're going and where you're heading, what's kind of, I mean, you just hinted at it, Vicky. What are kind of some of the bigger visions that you have without giving away too much? What's kind of the goal that you have for the business moving forward?
Um, the absolute sort of truth is, if you want to grow, you need to go out of your local area. But shops provide an anchor. So, people will travel 5, 6, 7 miles to a shop, but really not much further. So, that means you've got to have regular, you know, areas for them to go to. Or a pattern of a network of things. And I certainly in the UK, the cost of having shops now is really prohibitive to that.
Yeah,
So the idea about sort of the remote and we've sort of trialed lockers and the pod as well, and we've got them working. But yeah, it's now really about reach to a bigger audience, and that's sort of right now we're that is the marketing plan that we are working on, because we're going to have to take our local brand and make people trust it, outside of the local area.
yeah,
So that's our big challenge now. Um, so there's a slightly different journey, um, in terms of the way it's going to work, but it takes everything that we know works will be in that journey, and then we've got to get more people doing it in more places.
yeah. I
So
love it.
yeah, I think the next 12 months are going to be quite exciting.
Yeah, I believe that. Well, Claire, Vicky, thank you so much for the time. Thank you for sharing your insights with our audience. Claire, if people want to check out our dry cleaner, where can they go to do that? Follow us on social media, website. Where can they go to find us?
Yeah, if you search Peter's Cleaners in the UK, you will find us. We're the only company with that name. So yeah, you'll find all of our back.
Awesome. I love it. Well, Claire, Vicky, thank you so much for giving us your time today, and thank you for running unicorn campaigns.